Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and this is Anne. In this video, I'll be featuring my White Nights Watercolors Swatch Cards. And if I remembered it correctly, I think I have 77 swatch cards here, and then I'll be adding 7 more in this video. And here's a close-up of one of the swatch cards. And here I will lay down all the swatch cards that I have finished. So I start first with my yellows, and then my oranges, and then next are my reds. Then my purples and blues. Continue to my greens. Then my earthy colors. And then onto my browns. And then lastly, my dark colors. And now a few basic information of how I did the swatch cards. First of all, I used watercolor paper, but this is only 200 GSM. It's by Fabriano. And then the sizing is about 4 centimeters by 3.5 centimeters. And then I used a drawing pen, and I made these corners, like a dotted sketch at the corners to check for opacity of the paints. And I only did this in front of the swatch cards. And here are the cards that is ready for swatching, because I'll be adding a few more paints in my collection. So here's a complete process of how I place the details on the swatch cards. First, I use a drawing pen, which is waterproof. I first add the brand name. In this case, it's White Nights. And then I continue with the color name. And also, if I already know, I will add the reference number as well. And then I'll add the pigment information. And then after that, the light fastness. And then I will continue on with the other paint information if I have them, like staining ability, transparency, and if it's a granulating color. Okay, so with White Nights Watercolors, the reference number is indicated on the pan. So here I'll just be partnering up the swatch cards with their corresponding paints. Okay, so this color is nickel titanate yellow. I bought this color because I thought that this would be like a very light lemon yellow color. Although it does look a bit like that, but it is more on the softer side. So what I do with the swatches is I start with a very strong matte tone at the top, and then do a gradient wash from the middle to the bottom. This next color is Aureolin. And here we have Naples Yellow Light. And this one is Chromium Cobalt Turquoise. And now this is Azure. And now this is Perylene Violet, which is a color that I've always wanted to try out. Okay, and this is the last one. I'm not sure how to say this, but is it Bistre or Bistre? But it's a hue. Okay, so if you have checked out my White Nights curated paints, there's a color there called Chromium Iron Oxide. I thought that Chromium Iron Oxide would look like this color, so I'm very happy to have this one. So after this, I found that my hands were speckled with paints, and after washing, I found that this swatch card dried quite pretty fast. So now it's time to do the wet on wet type of wash at the back of the swatch cards. Okay, so the reason that I did this is it's for me to find out how a paint will behave in a wet on wet situation. Like, would the paint travel? Would it just sit in the middle? Or maybe if it's a granulating color, how would it granulate? So we don't really paint the way how we swatch. Like, for example, when we paint, we don't really always use the mass tone of the paints. Most of the time we dilute it, and then we do some glazing or like mixing as well. So I think it's important to know how these paints would look like if we do add a bit of more water, because that is usually how we use these paints. Okay, so if you've watched my videos before, you will notice here that why did I buy like 3 yellows when I'm not really like a yellow person. There are 3 primaries. There's blue, red, and yellow. Yellow is my least favorite out of all the primaries, although it's the most important, to be honest. And why do I say it's important? Because the yellow color, you cannot mix a yellow. Whatever you mixed in your palette, you can never create a yellow. Unless it's something to neutralize the yellow. Like for example, you start with a lemon yellow and you want to make a warm yellow, you start to add red. But the main color, the yellow, you cannot replicate a yellow. So again, the reason that I bought 3 yellows is because I found that the yellows that I have, like from the 36 piece palette from White Nights, it is not the yellow that I wanted to have. At least what I'm thinking to use for what I wanted in my paintings. So I'm crossing my fingers that I did pick the yellows that I would really want to use. Okay, so I don't know if you may have taken notice, I have a lot of blue paints. Okay, so yes, guilty. I am a blue person. Okay, but the next paints that I did purchase from White Nights are the earthy colors. I love earthy colors. That's it. Now it's time to show you my swatch cards up close and personal. And this one is zinc white. There isn't much to tell because it's a white paint. And now next, these are the yellows. So this one is nickel titanate yellow. This one is an opaque color, but it looks very soft. The next color is cadmium lemon. And the third one is aureolin. And after that, this is yellow. And this one is Naples yellow light. This one is cadmium yellow medium. And this is Indian yellow. Second to the last, this is Indian gold. And then the last of my yellows, this is Ergazin yellow. Now onto a bit of comparison. So nickel titanate yellow is very obviously more lighter than cadmium lemon. Comparing cadmium lemon to aureolin, aureolin does look slightly more warmer. So looking at the contrast between cadmium lemon and yellow, I think combining these two colors, you'll get aureolin. As for Naples yellow light and cadmium yellow medium, they do look similar, but the Naples yellow light is more softer. If I was going to paint a pastry, I would choose Naples yellow light. If I was going to paint like maybe the sun, I would use cadmium yellow medium if I didn't have like the Indian gold or the Indian yellow. And here are the still pictures of these swatch cards. By the way, you can see that I've rounded off the top corners. And here are the warm yellows, or what I deem to be oranges. First, there is golden deep, and next is golden, and then the last one is Titian red. Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of this golden deep and golden because they look like Cheetos to me, but I do like the Titian red. I'm really seriously contemplating whether I should get Pyrrole Orange. Let me know guys if I need it. Please comment it down below if I need that color. And here are the still pictures. And now here we have the reds. So the first one is cadmium red light. And this one is scarlet. And here is ruby. And the fourth color is Madder Lake red light. And this one is Venice purple. Although it's called purple, I still think that this is a red. And this one is rose quartz, which is a pastel color. And here is carmine. And And this one is Quinacridone Rose. And the last one of the reds, this is Quinacridone Lilac. Okay, so in between Cadmium Red Light and Scarlet, I think my personal pick would be Scarlet, just because I think it will be more versatile. As for Ruby and Madder Lake Red Light, I think I would go for the Madder Lake Red Light. Not because Ruby isn't a pretty color, just because if I had to pick between the two. So if I was going to trim down my colors, my pick would be Scarlet and then Madder Lake Red Light. The Venice Purple, sorry, I still need this in my life. Okay, so this one is Rose Quartz. To be honest, Rose Quartz is just Ruby added with PW6. As for Carmine, the pigment used here is PV19, the same pigment used in Quinacridone Lilac. Although they share the same pigment, they are two different colors. So Quinacridone Rose and Carmine, I would have to choose Quinacridone Rose over Carmine, but I would still keep Quinacridone Lilac. And here are the still pictures of the reds. Now on to our violets. So the first one here is Ultramarine Violets, and the next one is Rose Mist. For my third violet, this is Dioxazine Violet. And the fourth one is Violet. Out of all the four paints, the Rose Mist is the only one from the Granulating series. So out of the four paints, my personal pick will be Ultramarine Violet and Dioxazine Violet. So in between Dioxazine Violet and Violet, although Violet is a beautiful cool leaning violet, the pigment used in Violet is not very light fast. It is only 1 star of light fastness. So here are the still pictures of the violets. And now for the blues. So this color is Royal Blue, which is from the Pastel series. Here we have Cerulean Blue. This one is Cobalt Mist, which is from the Granulating series. And here we have Cobalt Blue. And this one is Ultramarine. Here we have Ultramarine Deep. And this one is Blue Lake. And this one is Azure, which I swatched earlier. And this one is Bright Blue. Next, we have Prussian Blue. And here's a personal favorite, Indanthrene Blue. And next we have Turquoise Rose Mist, which is also part of the Granulating series. And now we have Chromium Cobalt Turquoise. And this one is Cobalt Turquoise. And here we have Cobalt Azure Blue. And the last of the blues, this is Turquoise Blue. So in between Cerulean Blue and Cobalt Blue, if you are more into the warmer blues, pick Cerulean. If you want a cooler blue, go for the Cobalt. Cobalt Mist is my Storm Sky Blue, that's why it's in between Cerulean and Cobalt. As for the ultramarines, I do prefer the ultramarine than the ultramarine deep. Okay, so comparing Blue Lake between the ultramarine colors, I find that ultramarine is more bluer than the Blue Lake, which is leaning more on the violet side. Okay, so Azure and Bright Blue. Azure is PB15 while Bright Blue is PB15 column 3. They almost look exactly the same. Just the Azure is just slightly, very slightly more on the bluer side. Okay, so Prussian blue is such a beautiful color. If you're looking for a warm blue, Prussian blue is a great pick. And then Indifferent, I love this color. It's very unique. It's like a navy blue color. Beautiful light wash, beautiful mass tone. Okay, so in between turquoise rose mist and chromium cobalt turquoise, they look pretty similar. I guess you can use either color. But of course, turquoise rose mist has that pink granulation effect. Now comparing this chromium cobalt turquoise, and cobalt azure blue, they're very different colors from each other. And this turquoise blue, I feel like I should move this to the green because it's so green compared to the other blues. And here are the still pictures. And now we have the greens. So this one is mint. It is from the Pastel series. And this is yellowish green mist from the Granulating series. And this is yellowish green. And this is green mist, also from the Granulating series. And here we have emerald green, which is PG7. Also part of the Granulating series, this is chromium cobalt mist. Here we have olive green. And here we have chromium oxide. This one is called green with PG8 pigment. And this one is Tiger Mist, also part of the Granulating series. It reminds me a bit of a Perylene green, a little bit more subdued. Okay, so here is mint green, which is basically a mix of PG7 and a PW6, so I think it can be easily replicated. And here we have yellowish green mist, and this one is yellowish green. Okay, so those two colors and green mist all have PY3 pigment. And I must say I am not very much a fan of these three colors. And this chromium cobalt mist is such an interesting color. I don't know yet if I want a backup. And this one is olive green. I mean, it's very, yeah, it's a typical olive green. I like it. This is chromium oxide, one of my favorite paints. And then green, I love this color. It's just sad that it's not very, very light fast. Compared it to yellowish green, I do not like that one. And Tiger Mist and chromium cobalt mist are again one of the beautiful green paints in the Granulating series. Tiger Mist for me is a definite repurchase. Just not sure about the chromium cobalt mist. And here are the still pictures. And now here are my earthy colors. First color is Naples Flesh. The second color is Dunes. And the third one is Mocha. These three are part of the Pastel series. And here is Yellow Ochre. This one is Raw Sienna. And here we have Yellow Tuff, which is part of the Granulating series. And And here are my muted and earthy reds. First is one is Ruby Mist. And this is Scarlet Mist, and they are both from the Granulating series. And here we have Caput Mortuum. And this one is Perylene Violet. And this one is Orange Mist, also from the Granulating series. And this one is English Red, which looks to me like a very terracotta color. This one is Burnt Sienna. And here we have Red Brown Hematite. And now this is Rose Brown. I don't have much to say about the pastel colors in this section, but I love them. Okay, so this is Yellow Ochre, Raw Sienna, and Yellow Tuff. So I do love my earthy yellows, but if I had to choose between these three, I would pick Raw Sienna. As for these muted reds, although they do look very pretty, I just don't feel like I would get to use them as much as I would want to. As for Perylene Violet and Caput Mortuum, when I was watching a lot of swatches of these two paints, I thought that Perylene Violet would look close to Caput Mortuum, but now together I can see the very stark difference. As for these three reddish browns, although they look so much alike, I don't mind because I love this type of color. I like that I have all these three that I can use if I want this color. Okay, so English Red, it is a beautiful terracotta color, but to me the color looks a little bit flat. Compared to Rose Brown, that looks more glowing in a way. I think English Red is not something that I would buy again. And here are the still pictures of the swatches. And this next section are my cooler browns. So this one is Burnt Umber. And here we have Mars Brown. And this one is Gray Violet Graphite, part of the Granulating series. This one is Augite Porphyroid, also part of the Granulating series. Here we have Umber. So I had to look up the pronunciation. This one is Bista Hue. And this one is Sepia or Sepia. Okay, so in between Burnt Umber and Mars Brown, if I had to choose, I would choose Mars Brown. But I love both colors. As for Great Violet Graphite and Augite Porphyroid, if I had to choose between these two, I would choose Augite Porphyroid. Comparing these two colors to Umber, I can say that they are less brown leaning. Okay, comparing Sepia and Bista, I would say if I was painting something a little more on the darker side, I would choose Sepia, but if I needed something a little less dark, I would go with Bista. And here are the still pictures. Now these are my dark or very neutralized colors. This one is Sunset Mist. Here we have Hematite or Hematite Mist. This one is Dark Blue Shadows. All three are part of the Granulating series. And this one is Indigo. And here we have Violet Mist. And this one is Gray Rose Mist. And again, both are from the Granulating series. This one is Payne's Gray. Here we have Neutral Black. This one is Chromium Iron Oxide. And the last color is Mars Black. Okay, so Sunset Mist and Hematite Mist are very comparable paints, but I think Sunset Mist has more of a personality. It is more brighter, more lighter, and has this 3-color combination when it granulates. As for Dark Blue Shadows and Indigo, I must say that I like them both. At first, I didn't like the Dark Blue Shadows when I first sort of like swatched it, but now I'm beginning to like it. Here I'm just comparing Payne's Gray with both paints, and I can say that Payne's Gray is just basically gray. As for Violet Mist and Gray Rose Mist, I think I've mentioned this before. I do prefer the Violet Mist over Gray Rose Mist. As for my black paints, yes, I do place Chromium Iron Oxide as a black, then a brown color, although this is PBR 29. I must say that I don't have a favorite. I like all these three. I like that I have all of them. And here are the still pictures. So if I did my math right, I just featured 84 paints from White Nights. Okay, so finally, those are all my White Nights paints as of this video. Okay, I have to say that I will be adding more to my White Nights paints because I love these watercolors, and yeah, I do plan to get some more. Okay, so this is going to be the first part of this series of my swatch cards. The next brand that I'll be recording is with my Holbein, and then after that are my Turner watercolors. So if you're interested, please keep a lookout on those next videos. Okay, so I would have to say goodbye for now. Thank you so much for watching, and please, if you like watercolors, especially affordable art materials, don't forget to subscribe. And if you are interested in this type of videos and you like this one, please give it a thumbs up. So for now, please do take care, and I will see you on the next one. So goodbye and see ya.